As I said, I want to invite some of the people who use that technology every day in their daily life. So our three pilots that are in this room today are all flying for different airlines of the Lufthansa Group. And so they're all utilizing the electronic fueling process a little bit differently, but we're going to get into those details during our little discussion round. So for now, I would like to invite Wolfgang Wurzinger from Austrian, Claudio Corfu from Swiss, and Niklas Seipp from Eurowings onto the stage to join my discussion round. Hopefully that works. Yes. Hello there, Claudio. Wolfgang.
Hello, everybody.
Hopefully Niklas, is it working for him as well? Just a quick check. Ah, there he is. Nice.
Hello.
I can go back on stage.
Hello.
Away from the technical details. Okay, so first of all, thanks to all of you for agreeing to join my little panel discussion up here. So I'm very happy to discuss, the advantages of electronic fueling from the perspective of a pilot. So first off, of course, I would like to do a little introduction round. I will go clockwise. So from my screen, that would mean, Claudio, you're first to introduce yourself, your current position, and since when you are using digital fueling. Okay, so if that's the case, Wolfgang, would you like to jump in and start your introduction?
Thank you. As you have said, my name is Wolfgang Wurzinger. I'm with Austrian Airlines. I'm flying the Embraer 195 here. This is one part of my job, and the other is I'm responsible for all things digital at Austrian concerning flight operations, and one aspect is the digitalization of the fuel processes. We're using the e-fueling in its fullest version for about 3 years, and we have experience with e-fueling for about 10 years, but we didn't implement it fully.
All right, thanks for that.
Hello, everybody. I hope, do you hear me? Because I didn't hear you before. Okay, hello, everybody.
Works.
My name is Claudio Corfu. I'm working for 60% as a co-pilot on the 777 and 40% as a route support officer. And I was also responsible for the implementation of e-fueling 3 years ago. Actually, almost exactly 3 years ago on the 10th of November. And yeah, we are quite happy about the system.
Thanks for that. So over to you, Niklas.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Niklas Seipp, first officer on the A320 based in Cologne. And I'm also a member of the Eurowings Ops Efficiency team. So we are quite frequently dealing with digitization possibilities. And yeah, in Eurowings, we are using the e-fueling process now for several years. And to be honest, I'm quite satisfied with this process.
Always good to hear that it made your life a little bit easier. So
Indeed.
Speaking of making a life easier and turning back the clocks a little bit, remember the days when you didn't use the fully digitalized fueling process. How did your workflow look back then? And maybe you can share a little anecdote with the audience on what was life like back in the days, and why was it so much more difficult than today with the digital fueling approach? Wolfgang, would you like to start again, or?
Yes, glad to. Back in the old days, let me start with this. We used to write a small piece of paper in every turnaround for the ramp agent and giving him the wind and balance data and also the refueling data. Cross-checked it, then did some calculation with a pocket calculator and entered it into the technical aircraft log. And after the flight, we delivered all those paperwork to the accounting office and so on. And they had to check their invoices against it. And so that were the old days. And all that process steps we have now digitized. So it's a lot less work for everybody involved at Austrian here.
Okay, thank you. Niklas, go next. What was your life like before everything went digital?
Yeah, well, actually, basically the same as Wolfgang already mentioned. Another aspect I could add is the issues with the paper receipts, as Christian Mietz already introduced. So in the old days, the truck driver always required the signature on the fuel slip, and as you can imagine, it's not easy for him always to catch up with the pilots. So when you are just, let's say, on the walk around or whatever, in a very noisy environment, you could sometimes hear the truck driver shouting and asking for a signature, which is also, yeah, let's say in the current pandemic environment, a potential issue if you have to have a face-to-face contact.
Definitely.
We at Swiss had also actually like 3 topics, like the fuel figures, what Wolfgang mentioned, the e-ticket, which Niklas said, and we had also the no fuel indicator, which let's say on a short flight where we might not need fuel on the flight back, we had to send in-flight ACARS, handwritten messages, and hope the message arrives to fuel truck. So nowadays we just have to push one button and everybody which is involved knows about that we don't need fuel, and yeah.
Okay, so that's a good transition to the next question, because I wanted to focus a little bit more on what are the advantages of the digital fueling solution, besides just eliminating pain points you had before. But as you said, Claudio, so now with the no fuel indicator, there was no chance to communicate that manually before, but now with the digital solution, you are able to communicate that, save time for yourself and the fueling provider. To the other two, are there any other little tweaks maybe that got enabled by the fully digital solution now? Wolfgang, would you like to jump in?
Yes, thank you. 2 issues. Not every aircraft has the possibility to set the amount of fuel in the cockpit like the A320 does on some models at least. So we have to communicate actively with the ramp agent. So from a process perspective, we save time. So as long as the passengers are getting out, we are loading the new briefing package via the onboard connectivity, decide on the fuel, and then send all the data, all the while the passengers are still deboarding, to the ramp agent and to all parties involved. So all the processes can start as soon as possible as the last passenger is from board, for instance, for refueling or the pre-calculations for the load sheet. And from a safety perspective, we have eliminated the paperwork issues like typos. So if you make an error on the small paper slip in the past, it gets done. It's transmitted to the ramp agent. That's eliminated. It's not possible anymore to make mistakes as long as everything is working here.
Okay,
so time, and we get an improvement in safety also from the digital fuel ordering process.
So safety is improved, data quality is improved. There are no more mistakes, no manual inputs needed anymore in the back office, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Niklas, anything to add to that, or does it look the same at Eurowings?
Yeah, actually, I have a quite nice anecdote regarding this topic because I remember one turnaround which was quite rushy. We arrived already late, and the ramp agent tried to save some time, asked already about the final fuel figures, and I gave him verbally that we request 6.7 tons of fuel so the refueler can start. Eventually, we ended up with 7.6 tons instead of 6.7 tons. Which, yeah, of course, is not a safety issue at this point, but yeah, as you might know, defueling is very complicated and time intense. So eventually we ended up with almost a ton extra fuel, which is, I think, with the digitized process completely avoidable.
Well, will never happen that way. Exactly. So picking up on what you just said, Niklas. So I think through the whole briefing process and leading up to the flight and the start up until the takeoff, you have different opportunities to communicate the fuel order. I think starting in the briefing room with your device, with the tablet you use. But does it help you actually to make to get more flexible about your fuel orders when you are always able to communicate them digitally?
Absolutely. As you mentioned, there's a web interface available. So already in the briefing room and prior arriving to the aircraft, we can order the fuel amount. There is also a possibility to monitor the status of refueling. So let's say, for instance, the previous flight was canceled and there is already enough fuel remaining on board. Then from the briefing room, you can actually cancel already the refueling request. And by doing so, you can also avoid minimum quantity surcharges, because imagine there are 5 tons left and you thought about 5.1 tons, but let's say 5 tons is also suitable for you. There's no need to refuel another 100 kilograms.
Okay, so meaning back in the days, you were actually forced to communicate this fact you knew hours before, shortly before the fueler starts the refueling. And now you can communicate that much earlier.
Of course, yes.
Okay.
Of course, there are other ways, or other means, like giving the refueling company a telephone call. But this is always prone to mistakes, as I mentioned before.
6.7, 7.6, right?
Exactly.
Exactly. Nice. I don't know, but who of you, as all of you said in the introduction, basically, that you're, of course, no full-time pilots, as usual. But looking at the back office staff, the people that are tasked to manage the whole fueling process in the back office, can you give us any kind of insights on how this has changed with the help of digital fueling? So I think it didn't just make your life as a pilot easier, but also the people who are managing it in the back office. Claudio, you're already nodding your head.
Yes, absolutely. In the old days, we had always, for example, the accounting in the back office, they had to manually cross-check if we send or if we not send the no fuel uplift required. And on some airports, you have quite huge bills for the empty drive when the fuel truck driver comes to the aircraft and we say, no, we don't need fuel. So it's more like 5-digit numbers already. So to cross-check if this is correct or not is now fully automatically. If we push the button that we don't need the fuel uplift, fuel you always require, but if we don't need the fuel uplift, then the accountant, everybody knows, and the system checks it automatically by himself. Or other thing is also the delay, for example. If we have a delay reason for example, a late arrival of the fuel truck, or they say we have put in the figures wrong, now it's very easy to cross-check where the mistake did happen. And then
okay. Anything to add to that, Wolfgang and Austrian?
Yes, as you're all aware, the emission trading scheme relies on reliable reporting of burned fuel and remaining fuel and uplift fuel, and that's a whole chain of values that needs to be checked by staff. And we have eliminated lots of errors by providing all that data digitally, because in the old days it was copied from paper technical logs, from paper fuel slips, and so on. So that's a huge alleviation for the back office staff, and they have lots less mistakes to check in that process. Okay,
great. Having focused on that and already touched on the turnaround processes as well, of course, the most critical process that happens on the ground while flying, let's say. Maybe the most critical point is flying itself. But with all that digital fueling, where did you make the most improvements with the turnaround process? What helped you the most to cut down times, to cut down delays? And as we all know, delays are equal to money in the end.
Maybe we at Swiss, we have a little different system. So we can normally on a short haul flight, we calculate the fuel we need for the flight back already in flight. And we have a so-called ACARS fuel message. So we do check the latest weather, recalculate the fuel we need, and then we send the fuel message. So everybody on ground already knows, the handling agent and the fuel company, how much fuel we do need, or if we do not need fuel uplift at all. So this really is a big advantage And as I said before, the no fuel uplift indicator, and it's no joke, it's up to a 5-digit number per stations on some stations where we save per year. So yeah, it's. I think we can take it away to the station at FTDC.
All right. The other two. Anything to add to that last question of the discussion?
Well, I totally agree with Claudio. For me, there's also another important point, especially when it comes to refueling-induced rotation delays. By transmitting the order already prior arrival, it's way easier for the refueling companies to coordinate their trucks and to assign them to the aircraft which need to be refueled. And this, for instance, lowers the time with refueling processes with packs on board. So if you imagine, deboarding is usually quite fast, but requires some kind of additional safety measures. And by doing so, I have at least the impression that rotation delays due to refueling can be reduced significantly.
So I fully agree. So we have minimized the amount of time we need to wait for some paperwork, because it's transmitted the instant he's finished, and you don't have to get out or chase somebody down for the right piece of paper anymore.
Perfect.
I have even something else came into my mind about if, for example, the fuel receipt is forgotten to bring up to the cockpit, or even is getting lost, you can resend it, even if the fuel truck is not anymore at the aircraft. So there we had a lot of delays, which could solve the delay situation.
All right. I think this is, with all those advantages on hand you just listed so perfectly, I think it's a very nice point to end this little discussion between us. I will just head over to ask Ben if we have any questions from the audience at that point. If not, okay, so we're moving on to the next topic, but thank you very, very much, the three of you, for those valuable insights. And yes, well, I hope you will get back up in the air a little bit more often in the future, as you're certainly missing it, I guess. But for now, all the best, and stay safe.
Robin, if I may, just one more word on Christian Leach and his team. He provide really great support in all things concerning e-fuel. So if you need something from them, they're there for you 24 hours a day, and make everything possible you need. So great team. Thank you, Christian.
Thank you very much for that.
I absolutely can agree.
Thanks,
all right.
Take care and goodbye.